session at the end, so you can give us any of your questions at that time too. We're just going to go right ahead and jump into our presentation. Our first question is pretty simple. What is a scholarship? And I'm going to turn to our expert, Dave Murray, to answer that.
Well, scholarships are great because it's free money for college that you don't have to pay back. Scholarships come from a lot of different organizations, your local community foundation, perhaps a parent's place of business, the college you're looking to attend, and the federal or state government also may have scholarship money for you. Scholarship is typically given without considering financial need. Most scholarships, in other words, will not consider how much money your family makes, but they may ask for a lot of other information like the other things you see here on the screen. Most colleges give academic scholarships. Not all of them, but most of them do. And that's where the largest amount of scholarship money comes from. And those are given for good grades and good college entrance test scores. As you can see, there are a lot of other things that might be valued by the college. If it's an NAIA or a Division 1 or 2 NCAA athletic program, you might receive athletic scholarship money. Artistic talents, if you can play the oboe or the bassoon really well, there may be a nice scholarship sitting out there for you. More and more colleges seem to be offering scholarships for students who've done significant volunteer service, not only in the high school but outside the high school. And you can see there are a lot of other things that might be valued, like your where you reside. An Indiana student becomes attractive to somebody in California or Massachusetts. One's ethnic background, a variety of things might happen to match up with the strategic interests of a college or a scholarship funding source. You heard me say that a lot of scholarships are academic scholarships, and those are given to students who have good grades and who have taken good high school classes. They also look at the college entrance test. So my recommendation is that you take the best schedule of classes that you can handle. I'm not asking for academic suicide. I'm not asking you to step up and take tougher classes in areas where you're not strong. But in areas of strength and interest, I highly recommend that you stretch yourself, prepare yourself as best you can for the whole college environment, and you may be rewarded with academic scholarship dollars as a result of that.
Well, that sounds like a great deal, getting money for getting good grades. We have a related question. A lot of people want to know what the difference is between a scholarship and a grant. And sometimes the terms are used almost interchangeably. Sarah Ansel from SFA has the answer for us.
Like a scholarship, a grant is free money for college that you do not need to pay back. However, it's not entirely without some strings attached in a lot of cases. Many grants are offered on the basis of financial need, and what that means is how much money your parents make or you make as an adult student, and what your ability is to pay for college. Grants often target those whose financial situation causes them to not be able to afford college without some sort of assistance. Unlike a scholarship, grants are often automatically applied after you file the FAFSA, or the Free Application for Student Financial Aid. As I said, grants are not no strings attached in a lot of cases. Many of our state of Indiana grants require you to maintain full-time status and require you to keep your grades up. We'll speak about that in a little more detail later when we go through the specific grant programs the state operates.
Well, it sounds like you've been getting some great ideas for what kinds of things you should be focusing on right now. And you might be wanting to ask our experts, what can I do in high school to earn scholarships? As you might have guessed, it doesn't all happen your senior year. You can't just suddenly wake up and decide that you want to earn a scholarship your last semester. So let's ask our experts what you should be doing in high school all the way through to help earn scholarships and grants.
You'll hear this theme repeated numerous times throughout our presentation, but starting early and earning good grades is going to be very helpful for you to get extra money to go to college. In addition to that, earning an academic or technical honors diploma for State of Indiana grants actually earns you an additional 20% of money just for getting that diploma instead of the typical Core 40 diploma. If you're a freshman or a sophomore, it's a great time to start planning for the academic honors or technical honors diploma and really focus on your studies and focus on your grades to make sure that you're in the best situation to get the most money for college from scholarships and grants.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Dave, what else should students be thinking about in high school?
Well, before I do that, I might add one thing to Sarah's, and that academic and technical honors diploma brings you 100% of your state grant eligibility. Other diplomas bring 80% if you're eligible for a state grant. So it's one more incentive, a financial incentive to take the better schedules. You see here on the screen, take tough classes. It doesn't hurt to say that. I mentioned that earlier. Some of the colleges are actually weighting the amount of scholarship based on the rigor of that high school course of study. When it comes to exploring your interest, do just that. Find things that you're interested in. Now, one of the byproducts and advantages of that may be that you'll wind up with leadership responsibilities, or some of those activities become good essay topics, or help match you up for special scholarships. You know, it may be that you want to get involved with a mentoring organization with younger students. That may turn out to be an essay topic, or it might turn out to be a scholarship opportunity if it matches up with a particular institution. My recommendation as a former dean of admissions at DePaul University, and I think I speak for most people in admissions when I say this, some students will go out and join 12 or 15 clubs, but really not do anything in depth. My recommendation would be find those activities that you care about and do a few of them in great depth as opposed to spreading yourself around. I think the colleges will value that more if you take that approach.
We've also talked just a little bit about the college admissions tests and the role that they play in scholarships. Dave, could you please also talk about the SAT and ACT?
Yes, most of the colleges are going to require that you take one of those tests. A lot of students will take both tests, and the colleges generally will accept both tests. And typically when they send those scores in with the rest of your credentials into an admissions room or a scholarship room, they'll send in the scores that are to your best advantage. In other words, they're going to try to give you the benefit of the doubt on the testing. Those are pressure situations. They happen in a short period of time. And so they're trying to give you every benefit of the doubt on that. The colleges often super score a test. And what we mean by that is on the SAT, for example, critical reading, math, and writing scores. Well, let's say you go out and get a 600 critical reading, 600 math, and a 500 writing sample. We've got a 1700 total SAT. You'll hear seniors saying, I've got a 1760 SAT. That's the total of the three tests. Let's say we take it a second time. That 600 critical reading drops to 500. Math stays at 600. The writing goes up from 500 to 600. We've got a 1700 on the SAT total again. But what a lot of colleges do when they super score is they'll take the best sub scores from different test dates. So they take the 600 from the first test on critical reading, the 600 in writing from the second test, and the 600 math from either, and retotal it at 1800. And 1800 may not only help us with admission to a college, but I guarantee you at some of the colleges, the academic scholarship is going to be larger for the student who has that 1800 SAT as opposed to 1700 on the individual tests. So unless you put up big time test scores the first time around, for most students, it doesn't hurt to take a test a second time. Some students, for whatever reason, will do appreciably better on one test or the other. Some think that the SAT is a bit more of an aptitude test. and others think that the ACT may be more content-based, your knowledge of particular disciplines. One thing I like about the ACT is it has a science subscore. So if I've got students who are really strong in science, we want to show that ability, demonstrate that knowledge base. We might want to take the SAT. But again, I go back to most of the colleges are going to take either test. Indiana tends to be an SAT dominant test site, although a lot of students still take the ACT. Illinois next door, heavy ACT, but students also taking the SAT.
One thing that you should know about these tests is that they do cost money. Do you have any advice for students whose families are not able to pay?
Yes, I would recommend that you talk to your high school counselor to see if there's a fee waiver that can, if that cost is prohibitive. I actually helped somebody out by paying for an SAT test not too long ago, and it was $70-some. So that's a lot of money for some students and some households. So I definitely recommend that you pursue that fee waiver possibility if cost is a concern. It's too important that we get you to a college education to have the cost of an SAT or ACT test stand in your way. And you can learn more about the SAT and the ACT. In fact, you can see the complete set of tests, deadlines for registration, the test dates, etc., on our website at indianacollegecosts.org.
All right, great. One other thing that you might want to know is that if you get an SAT waiver, some colleges will automatically waive your application fee. So when you're applying to college, they will automatically take away that fee for you as well. Some students are probably in our audience 21st century scholars, and they have special things that they'll need to do in high school. Sarah, can you talk about some of the things they need to make sure to do?
Absolutely. Those of you who are scholars know that you sign up for the program in middle school in 7th and 8th grade, but signing up in middle school is not all you need to do to get the full tuition scholarship that's available when you go to college. 2 years ago, there were some changes made to the program which will start impacting students who are now in high school. So those of you who are scholars who are in high school now will need to participate in what's called the Scholar Success Program. This is a new program that is now required that's going to give you 3 steps to take per year that will help you with your college readiness, your preparation, and help you understand how you can prepare to pay for college and what you need to do to get admitted and to go. You'll also need to maintain a 2.5 GPA in high school. On an earlier slide, I mentioned that many grants come with college GPA requirements. This one with the 21st Century Scholars also requires you to maintain a 2.5 GPA upon graduating high school. A third step you'll need to do is to complete the senior affirmation process by March 10th. That process is where you affirm that you have met the other conditions of the scholarship, such as not committing felonies and that sort of thing. If you have any questions about what you need to do to get your 21st Century Scholarship, please visit scholars.in.gov.
You can also talk to your school counselor. Most school counselors are experts on the 21st Century Scholars Program. Part of the 21st Century Scholars Senior Affirmation process is filing the FAFSA, which Sarah mentioned earlier. That's the free application for federal student aid. And that's not just for scholars. That's actually for every student who will be attending college, and that's something that you need to do your senior year. I'm going to ask Sarah to explain a little bit more about what the FAFSA is and how you can make sure that you don't miss out on scholarship dollars because of the FAFSA.
The FAFSA is a free application that serves as a universal application in many senses for financial aid, and particularly for the need-based grants that we discussed earlier. It's used by the federal government to determine eligibility for grant programs like Pell Grants, and also to determine eligibility for federal student loans. The state also uses the FAFSA as its application for our main need-based grant programs, which are the 21st Century Scholars Program and the Frank O'Bannon Program, which is a parallel need-based aid program that's available for students who did not enroll in the 21st Century Scholars Program. For the state aid, an important thing to keep in mind is that there is a deadline. So senior year, you must file your FAFSA by March 10th to be eligible for grants from the state of Indiana. That is earlier than a lot of the deadlines for instance, the federal government and for institutions. But to be eligible for the state grants, it is important to file the FAFSA by March 10th. You can do that at FAFSA.gov online. Most of college aid is also going to be given on the basis of the FAFSA. So there's really no single better thing to do, particularly if you're a student that may have financial need to get grants, particularly those that will be automatically applied. One other important thing to know about the FAFSA for state grants and for federal grants is that just filing it is not the end of the road. So it's very important that you check back either through email or through FAFSA.gov, and Indiana has a application called eStudent that helps you log in and see the status of your FAFSA. We will be notifying people through eStudent and by email if there's any problem with your FAFSA that may prevent you from getting need-based aid that you would otherwise be eligible for. So one example of this is that you may accidentally put that you're from Alabama instead of from Indiana. That would make you ineligible for our grants. So we would notify you and say, based on your FAFSA, you live in Alabama, so your aid is not available for you. If that is an error, please correct it by May 15th. So the May 15th deadline is when all the changes and corrections, if they are corrections, need to be processed. If you go past that date without fixing the thing on the application that makes you ineligible, you will not be able to get state aid for that year.
I might add one thing here, and that is last year the Fed started requiring that if a tax return was filed, that it had to be based on the IRS database. So it's incumbent on people to get their taxes in, and some people file the FAFSA early and forget to go back and download that tax return information. So you'd have to do that by May 15th as well.
Just to explain to those students who don't know, the FAFSA asks for your parents and your, if applicable, your tax information. So your parents do have to have their taxes done before your FAFSA can be complete. So the FAFSA can be a little bit complicated, just like taxes. Sarah, can you tell us where students can get help filing the FAFSA?
Sure. A great place to start is going to be cashforcollegeindiana.org. That website will give you FAFSA lists and FAQs. It'll show you videos and events in your area that are geared to help you fill out the FAFSA. A lot of times the videos can be very helpful and the tutorials, but sometimes it's helpful also to just sit down with somebody and get one-on-one help with you and your parents. So those events are listed on that website as well. One resource you'll find on the Cash for College website is FAFSA Friday, which is a live webinar on February 15th at noon and 6 p.m. You'll be able to see what the FAFSA looks like. You'll hear financial aid experts walk you through the process, and you'll have an opportunity to ask questions of them. If you're a senior in particular, you won't want to miss this opportunity.
I might add, I was going to mention this later, but right now it seems to fit, and that is you'll also, and I'll show you the website where you can go to get this information, but on Sunday, February 24th at 2 o'clock, that's College Goals Sunday, and don't hold me to the number, but at 40 or 50 different locations around the state, typically financial aid officers are there to help answer questions about filing the FAFSA, or even in some cases to help families in a computer lab actually do that filing. You also could go to our website, which we'll show you here in a second, and we have a calendar of events, and we as a staff at the National Center for College Costs are staffing about 50 FAFSA days in different high schools around the state of Indiana this year. So there may be multiple ways, and there may be other events like that that we aren't aware of, but that somebody in the local community, perhaps the high school counselor, might be able to help you identify other locations and opportunities to get help with this whole process.
It sounds like there's no reason you should be on your own filing the FAFSA. So don't forget to visit cashforcollegeindiana.org, and I think all of those events, including College Goal Sunday, are listed on that page. Our next question, it probably makes a lot of sense after everything we've discussed. You're probably wondering where you can find all of these wonderful opportunities to get money for college. Maybe you've done everything right in high school, and some scholarships, for example, a grant based on your family's income, or maybe an automatic scholarship from your college, will drop right into your lap. But there are a lot more opportunities than that, and they'll require some work on your part. How do you get started?
Well, I think, first of all, you start locally and you look at nonprofit organizations. Now, the community foundations, there's a community foundation in all of 92 counties in Indiana. I would certainly get to their website or visit them to see what scholarships might be potentially matches for you. Businesses in the local area sometimes sponsor scholarship, or a parent's employer may have scholarships through that business that you definitely want to research. Special interest groups, the Center for Leadership Development here in Indianapolis, where I am today, has scholarships for students who are a part of that program. So, you know, that's not through the school, that's an extracurricular activity, if you will. So you might be thinking in those terms, and obviously athletic scholarships. And of course, the one or more colleges you're looking at, you definitely want to research their scholarship database to see what might be possible. Now, many of those the college will decide who gets those scholarships, but it does not hurt at all for you to call your application to their attention that here's a scholarship that appears to match up with me, and I hope you'll give me every consideration for it.
I know there are a lot of students who have changed their mind about what their #1 college is after they got their scholarship application. So don't forget that you might get a lot of scholarships through your college. How can students search online? That's one of the most effective ways of finding scholarships, correct?
It is, and we're going to talk about a couple of possibilities here. First, this is the website that the Commission for Higher Education asked us at the National Center for College Costs to build, and has licensed for 3 years now this site so it can be a free resource for any Indiana user. We believe it's the most comprehensive college selection, college admissions, and financial aid website in the country. The only other state with a statewide tool like it is Texas, and they would tell you that this is more comprehensive. So you can go and get tour tips that you could, questions you could ask on any campus of students, professors, admissions, financial aid, essay writing tips. But we're most known for the college cost estimator. So for those of you that aren't seniors about to fill out the FAFSA, you can actually go in and do a preliminary FAFSA, if you will, on this site. And in fact, you can do side-by-side comparisons of potential financial aid awards from any 3 Indiana institutions at a time, because 85% of the colleges have put their merit or academic scholarship and need-based scholarship packaging tables into that tool. So in one location, you can get your federal eligibility, your state eligibility, potentially college merit or need-based eligibility, and it will link you to local scholarships at one or more local sites in your home county.
That sounds great.
On a more national level, the largest free scholarship search site that we know about is fastweb.com. You want to take advantage of local or state opportunities first because there's less competition. When you get out on a national site like this, you're going to have to wade through some advertising, register, but what they'll do is, given what the information you put into the tool, they're going to come back to you with a list of scholarships that might be matches for you. Now, the narrower the set of criteria, if it fits you, you probably want to attack those applications first. You know, if it's for left-handed philosophy majors from your home county, you know, a whole lot of competition just went away on that national site. So look at the criteria carefully and spend your time where you think there is a great fit and perhaps less competition because of the characteristics of the scholarship criteria.
That's some good advice. There are some other places that students can look online also.
This website that you see here now, you can look for scholarships and grants from the federal government.
I know there's a lot of ones on there, and you can also search by your own criteria, your special criteria. So that could be a really good place to find some scholarships that would fit you perfectly.
Very good point. Your college's website, all the colleges in the country have to have on their website a net price calculator. Obviously, we've built a statewide site, but you could go to the individual college's website and look at their net price calculator. A tentative financial aid award or an estimate may not look exactly like what the final offer will be once they know more about you as a senior after you filed your FAFSA, but that they also usually have scholarship directories apart from the net price calculator that you might be able to do some homework on, as I mentioned earlier with the college.
We've been talking a lot about how to find scholarships, but one thing you'll also find when you start your online search is a list of the grants available from the state of Indiana. I'm going to ask Sarah to explain those so you know what these opportunities are.
Sure. We spoke already about the 21st Century Scholars Program. Again, just to remind you, that's something that you would have signed up for in 7th or 8th grade. And it requires you to keep a 2.5 GPA in high school, complete the FAFSA, complete the affirmation process, and complete that Scholar Success Program in high school. Once you go to college, the 21st Century Scholars Program is a tuition and fee-based scholarship that's available for you for up to 4 years. The Frank O'Bannon Grant runs alongside the 21st Century Scholars Program, and that is also a need-based grant that's available to students whether or not they've signed up for the 21st Century Scholars Program. It works in much the same way. You file the FAFSA. There are not the high school requirements with the Frank O'Bannon Grant. You just need to file the FAFSA, and you need to be a student who demonstrates financial need. Just like the 21st Century Scholars Program, that's available for you for up to 4 years in college. Both of those programs now have GPA requirements. So when you go into college, if you're getting one of those two grants, if you want to stay eligible for the grants past your freshman year, you'll need to earn a GPA that represents satisfactory academic progress, which at most public institutions is around a 2.0 GPA in college. The following year, you'll need to have a cumulative GPA of 2.25, and then by the third year, you'll need to have a GPA of 2.5. That's a cumulative GPA to stay eligible for that for all 4 years, and that is available for full-time students only. For those of you who may end up going to college part-time, there is a part-time grant available. To be eligible for that, again, you need to file the FAFSA. And to get this grant, you'll need to work with your college's financial aid office. Currently, this is something that the financial aid offices administer, and they're able to select the recipients. There is an application for that comes through SFA, through our organization, but ultimately you need to contact your financial aid office to see if that's something that you can receive. And that's for students who take up to 11 credit hours per semester. We also have a minority teachers grant, and that title is a bit deceptive. It's actually, there are multiple components to this. So students that might be eligible for this grant would be minorities, which is defined as African American or Hispanic by law, who are planning to go into the teaching field or who are pursuing teaching in a teaching program. Also eligible are students of any race or ethnicity who are pursuing special education, physical therapy, or occupational therapy. To receive that grant, there's an application that's on our website, on the SFA website. And again, you'll need to work with your financial aid office if you believe you're eligible for that. The nursing scholarship is available for any student who is in a nursing program. In terms of amounts on these two, it depends somewhat on your financial need. For the minority teacher grant, you can get $1,000 if you have no financial need. If you demonstrate financial need, you can actually get up to $4,000 for that one. One really important thing to note both about minority teacher and nursing scholarship is that there are post-graduation service requirements. What that means is that by taking this scholarship money, you're actually committing to serve in Indiana either as a teacher, a physical therapist, occupational therapist, or nurse, depending on which scholarship you get, for up to 3 years. So it is, again, as I mentioned, not all free money comes with no strings attached. These two are those that do have some pretty significant strings attached in terms of what you're expected to do after graduation. For our military families, we have a National Guard grant. That's for students who are in the National Guard and either go to college after or go to college during their Guard service. To apply for that, you need to work through your National Guard office. The National Guard gives us a list of students who are eligible for that. The other military grant is the what we call the CVO, or Children of Veterans Grant. This is basically for children of disabled veterans, and there are a few different categories of that. A child of prisoner of war or a person missing in action, a child of a Purple Heart recipient, or a wounded veteran or deceased or disabled veteran. Those are offered through, you'll need to work with the Department of Veterans Affairs for those. Again, they convey to us the list of students who are eligible for that. And finally, a new scholarship that we just have been doing in the last couple of years is the Mitch Daniels Early Graduation Scholarship. Those of you that are listening that are freshmen and sophomore, this is a great time to start planning if this is something that you think you might be able to take advantage of. This scholarship is given to students who graduate from high school early. So if you graduate from high school after 3 years instead of 4, the state gives you $4,000 toward your freshman year college costs. That is not based on financial need. That's available to any student who graduates early from an Indiana high school and then goes on to attend an Indiana college.
Sarah, we've had a chat come in from Denise that says when you file the FAFSA, what do you put if you're deciding between colleges? And maybe we can elaborate a little bit more about how this process works. When you fill out the FAFSA, it goes to the federal processor, and that establishes any eligibility you have for federal grants, work-study jobs perhaps that the college might offer, student loans. They automatically send a report to the state of Indiana or another state if you're on with us today from somewhere else or viewing this, and then they send a report to all the colleges in the country whose names and code numbers you put down. So unless the college asks for additional information, this one form does it all. A few of the highly selective privates, they'll ask for extra information about things that aren't considered by the federal formula to see where there might be money in the family that could help pay for college. But generally speaking, this one form does it all. So most students, Denise, are debating multiple colleges, and you simply send the FAFSA for all of them, see where you're admitted, see what kind of financial aid, if any, is offered, and then make your final decisions from there, typically.
All right, it sounds like you don't need to make that decision when you're filing the FAFSA. That's great. I think we've got one more slide about another place that you can search for scholarships.
Yes. When it comes to scholarships beyond those provided by the feds, the state, or the college involved, the first place I would go is to the guidance office or the main office and get the program from last year's awards night that most high schools have, because it often has a list of all the scholarships, those that came from the Community Foundation, from the local Lions Club, from the English department. And I would do that while I'm a junior to kind of size up who I may want to target for inquiring about that, applying for that, writing an essay for something that might be a really good match for you. And if they don't have an awards night, I would see your high school counselor, because they typically have, sometimes in an online environment these days at the high schools, a directory of the scholarships that are given locally. There's less competition at the local level. A lot of seniors just never get around to applying, and you hear all the time about scholarships literally left on the table, and that is absolutely true in some cases. Friends in college may be able to help you identify at the colleges, if you know someone at the colleges you're considering, with scholarships that they targeted that might also apply to you. As mentioned earlier, your parents, through their employer, may be a source of scholarships, and sometimes those can be significant. And $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 can make a huge difference in a family's ability to pay for a college education. And of course, the financial aid officers at the colleges you're looking at are also a potential resource.
Thank you very much. We've got one more question. I realize that we are running out of time, so I want to encourage you to ask any of your questions now if you have them. And if you're not able to finish watching the webinar, you can always come back to learnmoreindiana.org/webinars and view the video recording of this webinar. Our last question is, how can I make my scholarship application stand out? What can students be doing so that their scholarship application makes it to the top of the pile?
First and foremost, we want to have good courses and good grades. It helps to have strong college entrance tests on the SAT or ACT. And the other things they'll look at are a personal statement or essay. Now that's sometimes required for admission. It's more often going to be required for particular scholarship programs. And we'll talk in a second about how to maybe attack that essay situation. The interview situation really varies from colleges that don't do any admissions interviews. They'll do group information sessions, to some of the highly selective places like the Ivy League colleges where they require an interview either on campus or with a member of the alumni body in your local city or region. But most colleges are not requiring admissions interviews. It's an optional one. If you think you're a borderline candidate and you want to make sure that they know just how badly you want to go there, maybe we opt to take that opportunity to do the interview if you think we interview well.
Sarah, I know that there are some application components for a grant as well. Can you talk about those?
Absolutely. Many grants really only require you to file the FAFSA. Again, that's going to determine your family's financial need and your family's ability to pay for college. Federal Pell Grants and the basic need-based grants from the state of Indiana only require you to file the FAFSA. As I mentioned when we went through the Indiana grants, some of those require a supplemental application, but most grants are going to require you to file the FAFSA even if there is a separate application for that. I would highly encourage you to go to Indiana College Cost Estimator at indianacollegecosts.org. That website is going to allow you to put in personal information about yourself and then get a side-by-side look at how much money you can expect to get from each college that you're interested in attending between scholarships, federal and state grants. And it's a great way to estimate your net cost of attending an Indiana college. Remember that with scholarships, grants, and other aid, your net cost to attend an Indiana college might be as low as $0.
Well, that would be a happy surprise for many students, I'm sure. One scholarship application component that we mentioned was essays, and Dave has lots of good advice on how to make your essay stand out.
If they ask for an essay for admissions or scholarship, stay within the parameters that they lay out. If they say no more than 500 words, we don't do 501. If they say handwrite it instead of getting the old keyboard out, whatever the parameters are, we stay with them. Now, within that, if they give you one question about a quote from Socrates, we don't have a lot of flexibility, but most of the colleges, if they ask one question, it's one that's very broadly worded. that we could take in lots of different directions. Or they may give you 3, 4, 5 questions and you choose one of them. When you attack this essay within the parameters that they lay out, my advice for you is find the passion in your life and write about it if there's flexibility to do that. Because if you're passionate about what you're writing about, they're more apt to be passionate about you as a reader. Now, and you want to, if you can, share things most students can't, because your career goals are not common. You know, somebody that wants to become a meteorologist, there aren't a lot of folks out there interested in that. Well, right now, topically, we have separated ourselves from a whole lot of other students who may want to go into communications or be history majors, etc. Or there may be a particular experience that you've had that most folks can't write about. When you attack this is not a term paper, in my mind, with an introductory paragraph telling us telling the reader where we're going, and then we develop it and we come back and summarize. I think right out of the gate, you want to grab the reader by the eyelashes. This is a quote from a woman by the name of Joan Throckmorton. She's a national expert in writing junk mail. And you know what happens after the first 2 or 3 or 4 sentences. If they don't grab us by the eyelashes, you know, we all know where that's going. In my case, I hope it's going into a recycling bin. It's always a bonus if you can tie this to education and career goals. The best personal statements or essays can't always do that. You're passionate about a particular book you've read or an idea or an issue. But if it happens to relate to education and career goals, then I think that's a plus. You want to have others proofread what you've read. You know, an English teacher, the school counselor, you know, mom or dad, somebody, to make sure that typo you've been going over, they may catch it for you. Or your passion is risky. That there may be somebody out there who looks at your passion in a very different way that may not be positive in their mind or productive for you. I brought along a couple of 3 essays that I might share with you just quickly to help bring to life what I'm trying to get at here. This is from a young woman by the name of Allison. In her second paragraph, she says, "When God made me, he gave me stubby fingers, a simple voice, and a love of things beautiful. With these I have fashioned my life." A couple of paragraphs later, she says, "My 2 passionate day-to-day pursuits in life are words and music, and the time which is not devoted to reading, singing, writing, or playing my violin is spent wishing it were. I am in awe of the message of music and of the music in words, and in my happiest hours I hold a book or a fiddle in my hand." So when you're at your happiest, where are you? What's going on? When you are really, really angry, you are ticked off, where are you and what's going on? When we have really strong positive or negative emotion, there's something behind that that we care deeply about. Is that a potential essay topic? Here's one with the simplest of activities going on, a part-time job at McDonald's. It starts, "Welcome to McDonald's. May I take your order?" "Just a moment, please." "Take your time and order when you're ready." Glancing at the car sitting outside my back drive-through window, I spy a toddler sitting in his car seat, staring back at me with eyes of wonderment. I smile. He giggles. Silently, we play a game of peekaboo. Unwillingly, I break away to avoid the questioning glare of a parent who wonders why their child is having a sudden fit of laughter. Waiting patiently for the next car to pull up to my window, a certain phrase from my parents races through my head. Quote, "You have a talent with children," period, end quote. Now, what's your guess on education and career goals? Daycare, pediatrician, elementary teacher? Here's the next paragraph. From an early elementary scrawny schoolgirl up to the tallest girl in the senior class, I've been around children. I've worked with my mom at her school to watch her teach how to pronounce whistle without the lisp. One summer, I spent the first few weeks of my vacation at summer speech school. I wanted to help the 4 to 7-year-olds learn how to top those T's, slur those S's, and roll those R's. There was a certain 4-year-old boy who was autistic. He did respond to bubbles, and that word was the first one I helped him to say. So nonverbal communications at the drive-up window at McDonald's is the setup. She didn't say, I have a talent with children. Her parents said she had a talent with children. I totally believe that they said that to her. She gives an example of something that says she's got that talent. And finally, it starts. A beautiful mass of chocolate-colored ringlets fall on her Gerber baby face, framing her eyes so blue it's as if she caught the ocean with her stare. Her tiny, playful grin can do nothing but warm my heart and bring an unforced smile to my face. Petite arms stretched upward, with shouts of my name pulsating out through her fingertips, longing to be held. A tender moment, full of joy and unconditional love for a carefree child, captured by the magic of a photograph, ... taken by me. 2 paragraphs later, final paragraph. Simply put, I love photography. I've always been overcome with extreme shyness and insecurity, but with a camera in my grip, I find ... in italics, freedom. I become who I truly am. The feeling I get when I'm capturing a special scene, moment, memory in italics is undefinable. Excitement fills me as I unveil my works of art, and my heart races each time I come across a quote-unquote Kodak moment. I believe pictures secure moments in eternity and tell stories. I want to be a part of that story. As Lewis Hine once said, if I could tell the story in words, I wouldn't need to lug around a camera. But we need that camera and that photographer. So listen to that, one of those sentences again. I've always been overcome with extreme shyness and insecurity. With a camera in my grip, I find freedom. I become who I truly am. So my question for all of you listening in today is, tell us who you truly are. Tell us the story that sets up what you care about if you're asked to write the essay.
Those are excellent tips, and those are some really good essay examples. Sarah also has a couple general tips for you, whether you're filing the FAFSA or filling out a long scholarship application.
Sure. This slide really gets to some very pragmatic things that you need to do to make sure that you're not overlooked or you don't miss opportunities for scholarships and grants that are out there. The very first, we talked about deadlines for state financial aid, but pay attention to deadlines. There's often very little forgiveness and very little flexibility for students who miss a deadline to file the FAFSA or to file an application. So do what you need to do. Either put the deadlines on your calendar. If you have a smartphone, use that. Set up reminders. Make sure that you get those deadlines met. Step number 2 is don't ever pay to find a scholarship or to fill out the FAFSA. The first letter in FAFSA stands for free, and other scholarship applications are going to be free as well. And number 3, double check everything you submit. I would even say triple check everything you submit. I talked about the example earlier of if you forget to go in the drop-down box and say that you're from Indiana instead of Alabama, that may make you ineligible for aid that you actually should be receiving. So look at every single field on the application. Make sure you haven't transposed numbers, you haven't misspelled your name. A lot of scholarships and things do automatic matching. So even a simple misspelling of a name or using the wrong middle initial can sometimes mean that you get lost in some of the automated programs out there that seek to find the students. So just highly attentive to detail is going to help you make sure you don't miss opportunities.
Well, I see that I should have double and triple checked this slide because the N is on the wrong line there. Oops. Sarah, you've got one more very important piece of advice for students. What is this?
Don't forget to apply for college. You can get 100 scholarships, but if you're not accepted to a college, they don't do you much good. So it may seem like very basic and simple advice, but as you're looking for all the scholarships and thinking about how you're going to pay for college, also be sure that you're spending time on your college application and getting that in on time and making sure that that looks good as well.
And in the fall, Learn More Indiana kicks off our College Go Week. You can find that either at the website on the bottom of this screen, learnmoreindiana.org, or you can go right to collegegoweekindiana.org, and you'll find all information you need about applying to any Indiana college.
Some of the Indiana colleges during that week, it's usually last year, I think it was the last week of September, they actually waive their admissions application fee if you participate. You want to see who does and who doesn't, but I think it was worth mentioning.
Yes, definitely. Well, at this time, this concludes all of the scripted advice we have for you, but we are happy to take any questions. If you do have questions, please type them into the chat box to the right of your screen. I can see that we've had a couple of questions and answers there. And thank you very much for participating. And please do let us know if you have any questions.